We are here today at the Hyderabad Design Week, hosted by the Government of Telangana in partnership with the India Design Forum. Hi, I am Mrinalini Ghadiok, the editor of Stir, and I am joined by Amit Gupta, the founder and curator of Stir. The whole experience of an airport is changing from what it used to be, and how it used to be you're just passing through because you have to, it's like a pit stop more than anything else. But now people don't mind taking longer breaks and breaking journeys so that they can experience the actual airport. It's become,
and it's also a kind of like almost a microcosm of a particular city, because it's about see and be seen.
Yes.
You know, and you'll be running into all kinds of people you might not be otherwise running into. People from your own town, people you've never seen before, complete strangers from other countries. I remember as a child when I used to go through Heathrow in the 70s, it's the first time I saw Sikh people. I was 5 years old, I'd never seen a turban before.
Right.
You know, and they had like these big beards and the saris, and then you had Arabs, and then you had, and I was like, wow, you know, and it's incredible because you're suddenly exposed to something you don't think you'll see.
It's the true melting pot.
It is.
So how many times have you ever tried this? That you, while you were attempting to design a new airport, a new transience place, that you have gone to an airport and actually just watched people?
Absolutely, you have to, because you're thinking. This is one of the reasons why when Zaha was still with us and we started on the Beijing airport, and the project was actually well into construction when she tragically passed away. It was one of those spaces that even she could fundamentally relate to, because, you know, I don't know, you like art and you like sports and you'll go to the stadium all the time and you go to the gallery all the time, but you might not go to the stadium. Everybody goes to the airport unless you're a hermit. Yeah. And she says, well, I go every other week. Right. I'm there. So even she could relate to what should this feel like? People remember how you made them feel. Yeah. And what some of the speakers have been talking about, the emotion of the experience, that's ultimately what the end goal is, right? It's about, what does this space do for me? The fact that you have to do this crazy planning and the capacity and the baggage systems and circulation and all that kind of stuff and the engineering is a means to an end. The end is, how do I feel in this space?
Right. And
right? That's what it's about.
It's also a truly secular space, right? In terms of, in every sense of the word, because yes, besides the business class and the economy class, but you still have all kinds of people who are shoved into one area without their so-called, paraphernalia or without their buffers, and they're all there.
It's interesting.
It kind of breaks down classes at some level.
You can say it levels the playing field a little bit, right. or it's kind of a democratizing space, and then, of course, there will be differentiators or attempts at differentiating.
That brings me to the next point. When you're designing an airport, irrespective of the country you're designing for, and especially if it's an international airport or an international departure of an airport, it is devoid of any cultural context.
Or is it?
Or is it? It has a cultural context.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at it in two ways. I mean, a lot of airports that you go around the world today are kind of glass boxes. They look like generic and, certainly beautiful. Mm-hmm. But, so do you have to go into a vernacular where it looks like a pastiche and you make it look like an Indian palace or like a Chinese temple? Do you filter themes, colors, materials? So if you go to T2 in Mumbai, it's something that's very contemporary, but clearly it's an Indian project. That's what makes it very successful, right? And that's because there was an intent by the clients, GBK and the government and so on, to achieve that very particular quality. In Beijing, because it is a new national capital airport, they wanted something that would resonate with, in a way, with Chinese sensitivities. These flowing forms are really well received in China. It's a language that fits within that kind of collective sort of aesthetic and sensibilities. But also you can say a new project like this becomes part of the urban fabric. So if you take the Eiffel Tower, when they built the Eiffel Tower, 1885, everybody hated it. They could not wait for it to be dismantled. It was a disgrace, it was offensive, it was ruining Paris. Then it's say, now you couldn't have Paris without, you could not take away the Eiffel Tower from Paris. So suddenly what was an alien addition became something that transformed that city. People talk about the Bilbao effect, in a kind of a neglected town like that, building at Guggenheim transformed it. So you also have to look at it that way. You can say, look, I don't have to be demure or too careful. I can say I want to be ambitious and bold and build something amazing. Beijing airport is clearly something new for Beijing, but that will hopefully extend a collective understanding of what makes that city what it is. So you strike a balance.
The Mumbai airport, for that matter,
Sure.
it has that distinct character.
Chhatrapati Shivaji.
Yes. So it has this distinct character that has been kind of identified with the artwork and the way it's been built and put together. So do you feel the need to reflect on similar lines or reflect on that or sort of respond to it at the new airport as well? Or is
No,
it
it's actually
independent?
a very interesting dialogue that we're having at the moment without being able to obviously show or discuss too much. But there's a distinctive feeling about, you can't sort of outdo that. That is such a prestigious project. The work that was done in the art program, it is, you can spend the next 10 years going through and you say, every time I'm going to pick out 5 meters of wall and enjoy that artwork, and next time it's the next 5 meters, and I still have 20 years to do it because there's so much of it.
Right.
How do you do something that is equally ambitious and equally important, but is very different?
Yeah.
That is the challenge, and I think that's something that the client team that we're working with is very conscious about. There's a lot of discussion around that. And yet at the same time, how do you still create something that people say, it's distinctly different, it's a different theme, it's a different way of understanding India as it is today or how it might be in the future, but it still reflects India.
When authorities brief you, how much of the brief is on the economic power of the country or the city?
Very interesting question, because is the airport a means to an end, which is to passenger and shepherd people through and then get them into the city or get them to wherever they need to go? Or does it become the end in itself?
Right.
So some of the work going on at JFK that a lot of people are looking at has to do with bringing more business environment into JFK, that people can actually have meetings there. People can fly in, or people, rather than spending another hour and a half driving into New York, as nice as it is, you might maybe meet there, or people coming from Long Island or whatever. So the same thing happened around the new airport in Beijing, where it sits at a junction between Beijing and Tianjin and Hebei province, and that kind of triangle becomes this new special economic zone of investment all around the airport. I can build the best airport, if you want, in the middle of nowhere. If I have nowhere to get to, if there isn't the high-speed rail network or the highway network or the whatever, the airport will be, won't flourish. It won't have that effect as an economic catalyst, as a means of communication, because there isn't the throughput. If I don't have the complete vision of how this is going to be implanted into a region, then it won't be as successful.
Is airport becoming an iconic brand face, or the first face you interact with, and that's what you want?
That is for sure. I mean, some people say airports are the cathedrals or the temples of today. It's where everybody goes. And
it's
it
also
is
the first meeting point.
Exactly. It's your first point of contact. Obviously, when you arrive in T2 at Chhatrapati Shivaji, you clearly know where you are.
Right.
And providing an arrivals experience is as important as is the, if not more than the departure one, because it is your first point of contact with a new country that you may have never been there before. It is also your first welcome home if you're coming home to where it is that you live. If I'm transiting through it because, I'm just changing planes, isn't this a great place that I want to stop? I mean, the king of that, of course, is Singapore Changi. It's unbeatable, right? It wins it every year because they've understood what does a traveler who's between long flights, who is also conscious of being in that maybe even 24-hour, because they're flying from America to Australia, state of transience. What do they want? It's like being on a space station,